Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to everyone. Welcome to another session on Empowering Free at FSSH. Today we are very fortunate to have Associate Professor Dr. Mohd Kamaruddin bin Abdul Hamid from the School of Chemical and Engineering, Energy Engineering, a renowned researcher, writer, and also active learning practitioner. Who will be delivering a talk on active learning, the best practices. And before I invite Dr. Kamaruddin to deliver his talk, please, the audience is encouraged to pose questions and comments, and we will respond to your questions and comments soon. So without further ado, I would like to invite Associate Professor Kamaruddin. Assalamualaikum, Dr. Kamaruddin. How are you?
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, I'm very fine. How are you, Dr. Mahani?
Alhamdulillah. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation to give a talk on active learning. Okay. Maybe some of the audience they are not very familiar with Dr. Kamaruddin, being someone from a different faculty. So perhaps you might want to give a brief introduction as to how long have you been practicing active learning in your classroom.
All right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Mahani. Basically, I've joined the team of Prof. We started, I think, about almost 20 years ago, around 2003, 2004. So basically, we focus more on the problem-based learning.
I see. Okay.
So that's a very short brief about my involvement in these active learning activities in UTM.
Okay. But you have been practicing this for quite some time, and I'm sure you are already an expert in it. So without further ado, Dr. Kamaruddin, I would like to invite you to deliver your talk on active learning, the best practices. The floor is yours, Dr. Kamaruddin.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Mahani. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And salam sejahtera. So first of all, I would like to thank the management of the Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities for inviting me to share my experience, to share my practices in these active learning activities, especially in the teaching and learning in UTM, or especially in the chemical engineering program. So basically, I started this. So this was our I think some of our publication in the Conference of Engineering Education. So we have a familiar name there. So we started on the problem-based learning. This is just what we call it, chronology of my participation in this active learning activity in UTM. So we started with this, and then after that, we come up with several simple, not very big impact in that time, because we just started about this active learning and also problem-based learning. So we attended several and also organized several conferences related to engineering education. And 2004, we have this conference, the first conference in engineering education in Kuala Lumpur. And then after that, we also have a 2005. We organized it in Johor Bahru. And that was, I think, the first time we invited Professor Felder come to Malaysia, I think. This is basically initiative from Prof. Karya. So just to introduce you, that this is where we started our active learning activity in UTM. So, but more on the problem-based learning. And after that, we move forward on the active learning and also the cooperative learning. Okay, let's go to this sharing. So I think you're quite familiar with this kind of activities. So this is part one of the photo from the thousands of photos that I've taken from my classes. Basically, I'm not usually kalau saya dalam kelas saya just ambil gambar saja. So this is one of the activities. Part of the active learning activities happened in my process control and instrumentation class. This is not the latest one. I think this is the last year. So when you look at this picture, So this is totally different from what usually happen in the traditional class. Usually in the traditional class, we have a teacher, we have an instructor, lecturer talking in front of the class, jotting or writing some notes in the whiteboard, in the blackboard, and student sitting at the back. Okay, pay attention. Some of them, but not all. Some of them, or perhaps none of them paying attention on that, because we're not really sure, because the lecturer staying in front of the class give a lecture without anticipate, without make student participate during the lecture activities. But if you look at this photo, student, they involve themselves, teaching themselves, and also teaching their friends about a certain content that we have planned on that day. So this is part, what we call it, part of the active learning activity, which we call it peer teaching. And this peer teaching is also part of the big problem-based learning, or we call it cooperative problem-based learning activity. So after this, I will show you how that we integrate several several active learning activity in one simple class. So before I talk further on this active learning, so let's look at the millennials. Who are the millennials? Siapa mereka ni? Now, they are already in our system. They are already in our education system. The millennials who are basically a tech-savvy, technological savvy, handphone sentiasa berada di tangan. Okay, kalau kita tengok dalam gambar ni, if you look at this photo, all of them are connected with the gadget. And they communicate to each other, but through virtual. Although they are close together, they are sitting together. Okay, some of them are doing the chatting, some of them are listening to some music, a few of them, some of them are watching movie. So this is basically the characteristic or the criteria of our millennials. So what happens if they are entering our class, they are entering our educational system? So this is the one that we need to think about. Adakah sistem pengajaran kita yang telah ada ni suitable for them, sesuai untuk mereka? Alright, so we need to kenal dulu these millennials, because they will enter to our class soon. But basically they are already. Okay? So this is some of the survey conducted by some of the, not really sure siapa yang organize benda ni, but I have this info. So the millennials in Asia Pacific, they are basically spend about, they are aged between 16 to 30, almost one day. Berapa lama they spend their time on the mobile? So if you look, it's more about 3 hours per day on their mobile, okay, which is equivalent to 23 hours a week, or equivalent to 39 days per year. So bayangkan, setiap hari mereka ni pegang apapun, engage dengan mobile 3 jam sehari. Mungkin lebih. Okay? Mungkin akan lebih. So this is one of the criteria that we need to tackle for this millennial if they are entering our system, education system. Dan kita tengok juga the countries yang mana engage more on this mobile. Kita tengok Malaysia. Malaysia is almost, we are third after China and Thailand. Thailand is champion. Okay, all the Thais are most addicted to their mobiles. About 4.2. I don't know what is the way. Oh, hours. Okay, 4.2 hours per day. So their millennials basically spend 4.2 hours per day on their gadget. So the third is second China, and then followed by Malaysia, 3.8. If you look Japan, 1.6 only. But look at their country, what happened. I'm not saying that this habit ataupun this mobile addicted is not very good, but this is basically one of the criteria of the millennials that we need to take care when they are entering our system. So apa yang mereka buat semasa mereka engage dengan mobile ni? So they spend more of, for example, 3.8 hours per day in Malaysia browsing social media platform. Okay, chat, WhatsApp, okay, membawang dalam WhatsApp, membawang dalam Telegram. But millennials basically diorang tak suka pun WhatsApp ni. Okay, they usually use WeChat, and now the trending now is TikTok. Okay, TikTok. So we need to consider also this kind of technology yang our millennials engage. Okay, tak salah kalau kita guna TikTok untuk deliver our content. Okay. Alright, other than that, 42% use their 3.8 hours or 4 jam sehari itu watching videos, watching YouTube, watching movie in a streaming channel. Okay, Inflex apa tak lupa saya nama dia. Okay, there is a streaming online movie channel. So they spend half of their 4 hours a day watching that movie. So this is basically advantage for us if we can provide our teaching or convert our teaching materials into a video. Usually when you, especially if you, for example, the most easiest is we put it in the YouTube channel. So they will watch it because this is their habit. All right, and lastly, about 12% of them, okay, engage with the online shopping. Ini tak pastilah. Alright, tak berapa muka kalau student, tapi kalau pencara mungkin kot. Okay, look at the Lazada, look at the Shopee, whatever. But this is basically what percentage, what basically they spend, the millennials spend their time on mobile per day. Alright, kita masih lagi mengenal millennials sebab benda ni berkaitan dengan active learning yang akan kita lakukan. So who are they? Okay, the 21st century learners or millennials. This is some of their characteristics: critical thinker, a problem solver, innovator, a self-directed learner. Okay, self-directed learner. Kalau kita tengok pun anak-anak kita pun sekarang ni, kalau mereka, especially kalau sekolah rendah, if they have some assignment, kadang-kadang kita tak perlu tunjuk mereka pun, kita tak perlu ajar mereka pun. They basically watch or find the information in the YouTube. They are basically a self-directed learner. The only thing that yang kita kena buat adalah kita kena monitor lah. Okay. Problem solver, critical thinker, information and media literate. Kita tak perlu ajar pun mereka ni macam mana nak, for example, how to surf the web, how to find the information in the YouTube. So kita tak perlu ajar. Kenapa? Sebab mereka ni berbeza dengan keadaan kita dulu. These millennials lahir-lahir saja internet dah wujud. Okay? Handphone tu dah ada. Umur 3-4 bulan dah tengok, dah pegang dah handphone, dah tegang dah tap tu. But totally different with us. Generation, kita jenis apa? Generation baby boomer ke? I don't know. Alright? Kita lahir pun, for example, in my case, umur nak habis apa, menengah tinggi, menengah atas tu baru saya pegang komputer. Itu pun sehari berapa jam, berapa minit sahaja. But different with these millennials. Technology, the gadget is everywhere and very cheap now. Internet laju. So this is one of the criteria that we need to look at of this kind of millennials. Dan adakah teknik pengajaran yang kita guna selama ini sesuai untuk mereka? Right? So look at this picture. Look at this photo. Okay? This is normally happen in our traditional class. Tapi tak adalah apa blackboard besar macam tu. Ini sahaja imagination sahaja. Right? Tapi bayangkanlah kalau kita as a lecturer, especially in UTM, we still love to use this kind of teaching method. Okay? Tulis sana, tulis sini. Sometimes kita tak tanya pun student faham ke tak. Yang penting kita tulis apa, kita habiskan apa yang kita nak tulis pada masa tersebut. Kalau 2 jam lah kita menulis. Okay? It's happened in my case during my undergraduate. Terus terang saya cakap di UTM. Okay? One of the lecturer, dia dah salin nota tu dalam dia punya transparency. And he put in the transparency projector, and after that, dia suruh kita orang salin sahaja. No explanation, no description, no asking question. And pensyarah memang dia tak galakkan pun pelajar dia menanya soalan. So imagine if that happen now. With this kind of characteristic of the millennials yang kita dah tengok sebentar tadi, basically they are very active. The millennials keep asking question, always keep asking question. Tapi in our class, we close that opportunity for them. Kita tutup peluang untuk mereka menanyakan soalan. Ini contoh, ini pengalaman apa yang saya telah hadapi dulu. Okay. So we don't want to have this kind of teaching method anymore. Since our millennials, some of them, they are more advanced than us. Okay. Sometimes the content tu mereka dah tahu sebelum kita ajar. Why? Because now is all the information di ujung jari sahaja. Okay. Sometimes if you give the CI, the course information, hari ni, esok mereka dah dapat dah all those nota. Okay. Even solution untuk problem yang ada dalam textbook mereka dah boleh dapat, dah boleh jumpa, dah boleh cari. Right? So this is basically a challenge for us in conducting our teaching and learning class. Okay. So now I would like to relate with this UTM initiative, which we call it free, future ready educators. Okay. After that, we go back to, after this, we can back to the active learning. Am I a future ready educator? So we can ask to ourselves, our can be called as a free. Okay. So saya ucap tanyalah kepada fakulti FSSH, fakulti susah. Sorry ya, minta. Sebab they already started this initiative. Okay, empowering free. Rasanya fakulti lain tak ada pun benda ni. Kat sekolah lain pun tak ada sesemangat macam fakulti ni. So tahniah lah. Kalau dekan dia dengar ni, saya ucapkan tahniah dekan. Okay. So this is basically arahan. Surat arahan yang telah dikeluarkan oleh pejabat TNCAA, which bertarikh, which is dated 22nd April 2009. Ada kat atas tu. Surat ni dibagi kepada kesemua dekan-dekan dan juga chair di sekolah di UTM. Alright, and what's the content? The most important content about this is this, number 3. Alright, saya just bagi brief what is basically the free. So jabatan Naib Chancellor Akademik Timbalan Naib Chancellor, Timbalan Naib Chancellor menghargai kerjasama saudara untuk memohon setiap staf mendaftar sebagai ahli dalam mana-mana kumpulan learning and teaching di bawah group leader berkenaan. Maksudnya kalau di fakulti lah, di sekolah bermula 1 Mei 2019. Maksudnya kita ni sebagai pensyarah di UTM, okay, ini terpakai, arahan terpakai kepada pensyarah di UTM saja. Okay, kita kena mendaftar sebagai ahli. Okay, ahli untuk free ni. Okay, bergantung kepada berapa banyak grup ataupun kumpulan yang telah ditubuhkan di bawah fakulti dan juga di bawah sekolah. Okay, But the most important is active learning. This is the orang cakap selama-lama iman lah. Okay. So you need to register at least in one active learning group. Especially kalau di faculty ni bawah Dr. Mahani lah, sebab dia adalah group leader untuk active learning. So all of you must register as a member of this group. Okay, arahan tu dah keluar. Okay, arahan tu dah keluar. Alright, so what's basically the free? So bukan sahaja kita nak more on the active learning. Dalam active learning tu ada lagi aktiviti bawah ni, sebab active learning is a big umbrella. So we can have a cooperative learning, we can have a project-based learning, a problem-based learning, etc. And also we also need, rather than this active learning initiative, kita ada juga NALI initiative. Tak ada masalah, boleh. You can also park under the free, as long as you have some expert on this that can become a group leader. Then you can propose with the pejabat timbalan dan chancellor. And the most important is, dalam free kita utamakan pedagogy, pedagogy dan juga cybergogy. Okay, rather than pedagogy yang kita dah selalu pakai tu, so this ada 3 goji ni, so kita kena utamakan dalam free. Apa dia pedagogy, pedagogy dan juga cybergogy tu? So this basically, ini pun saya ambil daripada internet lah. Tak sempat nak create yang baru. Okay. Pedagogy, basically in simple word we call it peer teaching. Cybergogy is using the technology. Pedagogy is basically more on your self-directed. Okay. Pelajar ni dia ada keinginan dia sendiri untuk mencari ilmu. So this kind of 3 should be there in our teaching planning, or should be there in our CI, course information. Okay. Alright, so kita pergi pada this question. Sebelum kita discuss more on detail on this active learning, so I would like to ask question. Okay, can you in brief tell us what do you mean by active learning from your own understanding? Okay, you can go to the menti.com and enter this code 489461 and just share your opinion. So saya bagi masa dalam 2 minit ke 3 minit, kita tengok respon macam mana. This is very important because we need to know the basic understanding of all of you regarding this active learning. So kena adalah what we call it prior knowledge. Okay, ada prior information, then baru easy kerja saya nak menerangkan. Kalau ramai dah tahu, then kita more detail on this activity. Kalau tak ramai tahu benda ni, then kita kena cerita sikit apa di active learning ni dari segi fundamental dia macam mana. I will try to, Nina, can you stop this sharing screen? Okay, saya try dulu check saya punya okay, dah ada. I will try to share this. Nina, please share. Student-centered, okay. Oh, tambah lagi, kita tengok. Classroom. Students active, non-traditional. Technology-driven, okay. Alright, sambil tu saya minum dulu. So lepas ni apa dekan bolehlah minta sponsor mana-mana untuk program ni, then bolehlah tunjuk. Okay. Yang ni since UTM saya pakai map UTM lah. Active participation, students take charge of. of what? Two-way learning process. Fun. Oh, fun. Another sampai 20 lah. Kita tunggu sampai 20 participant apa yang jawab. Lepas tu baru kita akan more on this. Students active, engage learning, engage, proactive, engaging, engage. Oh, banyak ni. Keyword engage ni. Student centered, apa beza dia? Oh, ejaan. Okay. Problem solving. So, hampir most of you basically define active learning as an active participation. Active learning is a student-centered, two-way learning process. Active. Oh, active tu dah besar dah. Teacher as facilitator. Okay. I will comment on this. Bila masa kita jadi as a facilitator. Proactive. Student engagement. Positive thinking. Oh, positive thinking. That is the skill. Okay, positive thinking. By the way, if you have a question that you can type in the chat area about this active learning, inshallah, I will try my best to answer it. Okay, I think we better stop this, but you can keep put your opinion or idea on this. What do you mean? What do you understand by active learning? So basically, it's active participation, student-centered, student-centered learning, sama juga. Fun, we can talk about fun later. Student take charge of, I think, their learning. Okay, how that student take charge of their learning, how that they plan their own learning process. Self-directed, yes, which is that also relate with the student take charge on their learning process. Teacher as facilitator, I will comment on that. I will give some example how that become a facilitator, not a teacher. Two-way learning process, yes, I do agree. It's a two-way learning process. Engage learning, right? So I will stop sharing on this. Nina. Right, but before we talk or we discuss further on the active learning, this is something that which is very important for us to understand. The simple, what we call it, learning pyramid. Hopefully all of you already know, because fakulti ni pun ada sekolah pendidikan kan. Hopefully that this is not a very difficult thing that you want to understand. So we have the top one is lecture, and then after that we have teach others. So this is the activities that basically we conducted in our class, and we can consider this as a passive and also the active activity learning. So that percentage relates with this average student retention rate. Berapa lama student tu boleh ingat apa yang kita ajar dalam kelas if we apply a certain activity. For example, if our activity involving reading, audio-visual, so paling tinggi student boleh ingat selepas seminggu atau 2 minggu cuma 20% daripada apa yang mereka baca ataupun mereka lihat. But the most important, kalau kita minta student tu mengajar, teach their friend, then they can remember it up to 90% or 100%. Why? Before we want to teach others, we need to understand that first. Ataupun kita kena ajar diri kita sendiri sebelum kita nak ajar orang lain. Sebab tu there is a few activity required, or we need to plan a systematic activity such that student will try to understand the content first individually, or what we call it individual teaching notes. That's what basically we use in our class. And after that, there must be a peer teaching. Dah faham, sendiri dah faham, dan kita ajar rakan-rakan kita. Okay? Dan berlaku pula benda yang seterusnya. Bila dah faham, dan rakan yang diajar tadi pun dia akan terangkan kepada rakan-rakan yang lain. So that's we call it teach other or peer teaching. So how that this peer teaching basically is, this is part of the active learning juga. Alright. So yang ni saya akan cerita dengan panjang lebar because most of you already understand this. Okay. So if you always use lecture in your class, so less than 10% student akan ingat apa yang you membebel dalam ataupun kita selalu membebel dalam kelas. Okay, so kurangkan membebel dalam kelas. Biar student yang buat kerja. Biar student yang belajar memahami konten kita sendiri. There is advantage on that. Okay, I will explain that further after this. Alright, this is the OD, operational definition, that we use in the UTM-3. Kita ada active learning. So what do you call by active learning? Learning activities. Okay, tadi dalam menti tu banyak keywords on engage. So the learning activities should engage. Kalau tak engage, then kita tak boleh panggil dia sebagai active learning. So learning activity which engage student in learning process to achieve our learning outcome. Kita dah ada, CI semua tu kita dah ada. So sesuai tak activity, teaching and learning activity yang kita dah rancang pada minggu tu, pada hari tersebut, sesuai tak untuk achieve kita punya outcome, learning outcome. So di sini akan masuk pula constructive alignment. Tapi saya tak nak cerita pasal constructive alignment. Okay, itu mungkin ada pakar dia akan cerita nanti. How that we constructive align our weekly activity with our weekly outcome. Itu pun kena align juga. Alright, that is about active learning. Then we have a cooperative learning. Cooperative learning is more on the team, not group. So cooperative learning more on the team. Why? Because this is a permanent group, permanent team, starting from the first week of the semester until final exam. So kumpulan tu, the group is permanent. Kalau kita ada group yang temporary, that we call it group based. Okay, group based learning. But for the permanent team, permanent group, we call it team based. Dalam cooperative learning, kita ada 5 principles that we need to satisfy, or we need to look at their activity. Okay, positive interdependent, individual accountability, face-to-face formative interaction, and etc. Kena ada regular group assessment, function assessment. Okay, this is the fundamental ataupun principle in cooperative learning. Kalau kita ada benda ni, then basically cooperative learning will kita kira berjaya lah melaksanakan cooperative learning. Kita tak ada 5 principle ni, that's basically more on the group. Okay, that's basically more on a group. Another OD is a PGBL, project-based learning, dan juga problem-based learning. Okay, I don't want to describe more on this. Most of you already understand about this. The only difference is dalam project-based, the fundamental ataupun the theory diajar sebelum project tu berlaku, tetapi dalam problem-based learning, fundamental content yang kita nak ajar tu berlaku semasa aktiviti problem-based learning. Okay, student yang akan mencari outcome tu. Tapi dalam project, kita ajar mereka awal, baru kita buat project. PBL, semasa aktiviti berlaku. Okay, dan dalam project, kita akan ada tangible product. Dalam problem-based learning, is more on the solution. Okay, it's more on the solution. That is a little bit different between the problem dengan project-based learning. Alright, this is very important information that I would like to share with you. Those who already attended active learning workshop by CEE, I think you already know about this. Active learning continuum. Okay, there are 4, in this example, 4 level. Sebelum kita nak pergi kepada yang more on the student centered, we need to start from the lower thing, from the lower level. So which is the active learning. Although it is still instructor centered, Tapi you should start with this first. Sebelum you nak pergi kepada collaborative, cooperative, project, problem, start with the active learning first. So how is it? Just make your lecture active. Most of us memang suka kan bagi lecture. So why not? Nanti saya akan explain macam mana cara kita nak jadikan lecture kita aktif. Why not? You just take a break, 10 minutes lecture, stop. Take a break and do some activity. Enough. That's we call it active learning already. Okay. Kalau masa 2 jam tu janganlah kita bagi lecture sampai 2 jam. Okay. 10 minit cukup, 15 minit pun tak cukup. That is the maximum. And after that we do the activity. After do the activity, then we continue with the second lecture for about 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, that's we call it active learning. Make our lecture active. That is the simple definition on the active learning. If you have informal group activities, then you can go on the collaborative learning. Ada a few activity which is basically will promote the team ataupun team working dalam collaborative learning. Okay, so I will encourage you, if you already attended the first part of the active learning workshop, then you should go to the next one. Dalam itu, yang the second one will cover on the collaborative and also cooperative learning. And the third part is more on the problem-based learning. Yang ini ada banyak sikit lah dia punya part yang you need to attend. But make sure you go to the active learning workshop first and apply it dengan syarat kena apply, kena implement. Dia baru pergi kepada nombor 2 ataupun nombor 3. So if you have a structured team activities, we call it cooperative learning. Okay, ingat team, this different with the group. And if you already successfully implemented, okay, number 2 dan the number 3, then baru we encourage you to go to the number 4. Jangan terus-terus. Okay, so that's why we call it this active learning continuum. We start with the simplest one. Although it's still instructor-centered or teacher-centered, but try to make certain activity in your class, in your lecture. Okay, if you attend this workshop, okay, you can dapat several example how that you can able to put some activity in between your lecture. All right, so this is very important. Before you want to start more on the PBL, make sure that you have experience implementing active learning, implementing collaborative learning, implementing cooperative learning. Okay, jangan terus-terus jump to the PBL without all of this. Okay, all right. So after this, then we can end our part 1 after this bookend approach. So if you have a question that you can start asking now, about we can I try my best to answer it. So this is how that we design our active learning class. This is for 1 class, 1 hour class. Okay, and this is based on my experience and juga based on what the active learning workshop in part 1. So of course kita kena ambil attendance for about 5 minutes. Without attendance boleh, tak ada masalah. Then we start with the advanced organizing. Kalau untuk education, I think is hook yang pertama, not hook. Saya dah lupa dah. So advanced organizing basically tak perlu lama pun. If this is the first time you do you do lecture, so it's all about introduction to your course to your course lah. Okay, what is the outcome, whatever. Ataupun if this is the second lecture, is basically a recap on the previous week lecture. Ask them. Okay, the simple activity, ask them to recap back what's what we have learned last week. That is simple activity. Okay, 2 minit, 3 minit cukup. And after that, you have lecture. Buatlah lecture, tak kisahlah apa pun kontennya, tapi jangan lebih 15 minit. And after that, you do some activity. So this we call it intermittent because dia berada di tengah-tengah. Alright, this can be a discussion on the previous. Sebaiknya adalah discussion on our previous lecture. It can be individual, it can be couple, or it can be in a group or in a team. about 5 minutes, depending on how big the content that you have given there. Okay? And once that finish, then you continue the second lecture. Okay? And after that, you do the closure. Closure can be a summary, can be a simple quiz, pop quiz, not pop quiz, a simple quiz, or just a true-false question, simple. 5 minutes. This is how that we plan we design our active learning activity in 1 hour class based on my experience. Okay, so I think that is the end of the part 1. So I think about 30 minutes there juga. So we have we have discussed on the active learning. We look at this millennials, their characteristic. Okay, the learning pyramid, and the most important is the active learning continuum. Okay, Dr. Mahani.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kamaruddin. Very interesting, very informative talk. So we are going to take maybe a couple of questions. Is that okay?
Yeah,
questions. Okay. Okay, the first one is from Dr. Go ahead. From Dr. Nurul Huda Ahmad. She was asking how to implement active learning in skill-based learning classroom. For example, computer-aided drawing. So that is
okay, thank you. Syarah ni kan, thank you to Nurul Huda. Computer-aided drawing is basically already active. Okay, in the computer-aided drawing, saya juga ada pengalaman mengajar computer-aided drawing untuk chemical engineering. That's already active. So, lainlah kalau kita bagi lecture saja, student tengok saja. That is not active. So in a computer-aided drawing, it should be hands-on. So that hands-on is already active. Okay, kita bagi instruction ataupun give a step-by-step instruction, and after that leave to the student to do it. We just go around, mingle around, and look, monitor whether they do the right thing or not. Okay, that is my advice, my opinion on kalau skill based lah, especially on this computer-aided. So it's already active. Right? You can give a lecture, okay, tapi jangan lama-lama lah. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, enough, and then hands on. That's all. It's already active. Okay, Dr. Mahani.
From Dr. Diana, how to ensure active learning to take place in online classroom, and how can we ensure that active learning will take place in online learning?
Okay, thank you.
A very good question.
Yeah, very good question. Tapi yang ini saya akan jawab in detail in the second part.
Okay, too soon, Dr. Nina.
Tapi saya boleh cerita lah macam ni how. Dia tak beza pun dengan macam mana kita pakai sekarang active learning, as long as we able to select the right application, online application related to our activities. Still based on the bookend tadi, kita ada several activities. For example, the advanced organizing, dan kita ada intermittent discussion. So select the right tools on that. Itu saja. Nanti saya akan tunjuk macam mana dalam part 2. Macam mana pengalaman saya untuk implement online learning and what kind of apps ataupun learning tools, online learning tools that basically available yang kita boleh guna untuk this. Assessment to measure it. Yang ini susah sikit lah nak jawab because so far tak ada pun raw measure macam mana kita punya active learning ni berjaya. Tapi as long as the outcome can be achieved, that should be our measurement. That should be our assessment. Okay. Our objective in teaching and learning adalah in order student able to achieve our learning outcome. Sama ada offline ataupun online. Yang penting objektif ataupun bukan objektif, outcome tercapai. That's all. Okay, nanti kita cerita nanti. Alright.
All right. There's one more question from Professor Dr. Zainal. She's asking, active learning is active, yes. So why is it the lecture-centered part in the continuum, the slide that you shared
Okay.
earlier, Dr. Kamaruddin?
All right. Thank you for this question. It's just for me to recap back. So, active learning, kita masih consider dia sebagai lecture centered. Sebabnya kenapa? Most of the activities are conducted by a lecturer. Okay, lecturer yang organize it, lecturer yang initiate it. Bukannya pelajar. Tetapi bila kita pergi kepada towards the right path, alright, that's more on the student activity. Student, they plan for their learning process. That's why it's important to have a pedagogy there. Okay, self-directed. Itu tugas kita supaya to promote this self-directed. Tapi untuk yang active learning, yang mana kita menjadikan lecture kita aktif, itu masih lagi tanggungjawab pensyarah, tanggungjawab kita. Kalau kita tak initiate, student tak akan buat. Sebab tu in between tu kita kena plan. Okay, lecture kita ada activity. Itu kita yang buat, bukan student. That's why we still call it lecture centered, but not 100% lecture centered. Okay, rasanya tu jawapan saya.
In, but maybe we can continue with the second part, and then we will perhaps have more questions at the end of your talk.
Ya, bagi saya boleh okay?
No worries, take your time.
Alright. Tapi cantik kalau ada sponsor lain untuk Mark ni. Nina, take note.
Yes, insyaAllah, we remember that.
Alright, Nina, we go to my slide. Thank you. Also, so we go to the second part of this sharing. Alright. So before we start, make sure I would like to get this kind of what they call it, recap. Recap sebelum saya pergi membebel benda yang lain. So recap apa yang kita dah discuss dalam part 1. So you can go to the Menti, enter this code 89 sorry tak nampak 0040. Either you agree or not with this statement. Okay. Involve any activities, focus on how students learn, encourage students to responsible for their own learning process. This is just for our recap. Okay. Biasalah dalam kelas lepas kita bagi lecture, kita kena tanya balik, faham ke tak faham? Tapi kalau kita tanya verbally, student akan jawab faham, tapi apa dia yang dia faham? So one thing that we can use is something like this. Okay, we put the content that we have covered before and randomly ask them whether they understand or not. But this is not assessment, this is just part of the kita nak tahu. This is part of the formative juga lah, another formative assessment. Alright, so I'll give about 1 minute dulu sebelum saya tunjuk result dia. So, sama juga bila kita buat dalam kelas pun, always kita buat macam ni. Selepas kita cover certain topic, then ask the question. Okay. Encourage them to reflect what they have learned in our class. So kalau malu, this is part also reflection. Ask them to answer this kind of Menti. Alright, Nina, stop there. I will show that Menti result. Ya, sambil ni pun bagi masa saya untuk bernafas juga. This is part of the Yelah, kalau 2 jam you continue, penat juga, semput juga. Okay, Nina, can you show? Sekejap, saya share dulu. Alright. Oh, semua setuju, agree. That active learning should involve any activities that make student active. Alright, very good. So macamnya semua dah faham ni apa dia active learning. Focuses on how student learn. Bukannya lecture yang kita dah belajar, dah tahu dah lecture. Sebab tu kalau boleh kurangkan lecture. Sebab biar student yang belajar. Kalau boleh nota tu biar student yang buat. Dan orang yang present, bukan kita yang present. Encourage student to responsible for their own learning process. This is basically that we need to tekankan dalam kelas kita. They are responsible for their own learning process. Kita sebagai pembuka jalan saja, sebagai pensyarah, okay, kita encourage them, kita buka jalan. Tapi jangan main lepas je, kena monitor. Right? So I can say that most of you already understand what is the active learning, what should be there in the active learning. So involve any activities, focus on how students learn, encourage students to responsible. Yes. So after this, in the second part, I will share with you my best practice from our team in SKT, especially in the process control class dan juga introduction to engineering class, how that we apply the active learning activities in our class. All right. So I will stop this. I will go back to my slide. Mana sudah slide? Okay. So the best practice. Most important in active learning adalah yang ini. This we call it weekly learning and teaching. Saya nampak plan. Sorry. Okay. Sebab saya duduk jauh daripada monitor. Okay, kena ada weekly plan. Nampak lecture kan? Walaupun kita dah ada CI itu is just a very brief about our outcome, the content that you want to cover and the outcome. That is in the CI. Itu pun kalau kadang-kadang orang tak buat pun. Just bagi tajuk, that's all. Outcome tak ada. This is, in this start, for this teaching and learning plan, kena ada content dan apa dia aktiviti yang kita nak rancang ataupun kita nak buat pada hari tersebut, termasuk dia punya outcome, termasuk dia punya assessment, termasuklah dia punya deliverables. Okay, in detail. So yang ini memang kami untuk our team in process control ataupun ITE, kita design benda ni, kita discuss benda ni kalau paling lewatlah sebulan sebelum semester bermula. Okay, kita dah tahu kita mengajar siapa yang berada dalam yang mengajar kursus tersebut, and we met together and we discuss on this. Sebab kita dalam di SKT kita memang ada banyak section. For example, ITE kita ada 6 section. Ini untuk chemical engineering sahaja. So kita kena bersama sebab supaya dia punya outcome, dia punya aktiviti semua sama. Jangan ada buat benda yang lain. Sebab kita nak outcome tu sama-sama dapat. Sama-sama achievement tu sama-sama boleh achieve, boleh dapat outcome tu sama-sama boleh achieve. Right? So first thing, before you want to implement your active learning, please do the planning. Okay, highlight benda yang penting, you highlight macam ni, ada merah. Okay, kita ada individual peer teaching note, bila nak submit. Team peer teaching mind map, bila nak submit. Okay, report due bila, semua dah ada semua. Right, so this is the first thing that all of you need to have. And after that, baru kita sampaikan kepada student dalam kita punya e-learning platform. Ini contoh saya punya e-learning lah. Okay, week 3, apa hari ni kita berjumpa bila, what we would do, sebelum tu apa perlu submit. So there is a submission for individual before the class. There is also the submission after the class. What exactly activity, kita ada in-class problem, cluster activity dalam tu. For example, kita ada cluster group peer teaching, that is activity in a class. We mention, sebelum kita masuk kelas, benda ni kita dah publish dah. Kita dah letak dalam e-learning. Right? kita tak bagi yang tadi tu, yang planning tu kita tak bagi ke student pun. Itu untuk lecturer saja. But kita transform dia di dalam kita punya LMS. In this case adalah kita punya e-learning. Okay. Submission apa dia, benda tu semua kita letak. Ini ada contoh yang mana kita all ada semua ni. Okay, deadline bila, apa kriteria yang kita perlukan untuk progress, for example, this is the progress report submission, handwritten pun boleh. In this case, kita kena buat handwritten because student need to do the modeling, mathematical modeling. So, biar mereka guna handwriting pun tak kisah, tak apa. Okay, hard copy submit dalam kelas. Okay, ada yang perlu submit dalam e-learning, ada yang perlu submit dalam kelas. So, kita plan, kita rancang awal-awal. Okay, so kena ada juga benda ni. Okay, hopefully semua pun dah ada benda ni, rasanya semua dah ada. Kalau ada benda ni, automatically you punya apa e-learning ranking tu akan dapat level 5 automatic, jangan risau. Tak payah check pun benda tu, memang akan dapat level 5 sebab hit akan banyak kat sini. Ni ada contoh lagi juga. Yang ini contoh untuk online. Bagaimana kita plan untuk online learning activity. Kita saya inform kepada student. Okay, kita ada Google Meet. So kita buat link dekat situ. Google Jamboard, kita buat link dekat situ. So Dr. Nina, this is part of the this is just a planning for the online dulu. Kita belum lagi tengok kepada aktiviti dia. Okay, instead pukul 11 kita ada attendance, and then 11:05 individual solving online assignment, dia kena submit online. Lepas tu baru kita ada online synchronous discussion. Okay, lepas tu kita ada collaborative activity using Google Jamboard and then discussion, and after the closure. This is untuk online. Tadi tu yang dua tu untuk yang yang biasa, not online, face to face. Ini pun sama juga, contoh aktiviti yang kita rancang, yang kita perlu hebahkan kepada pelajar sebelum kelas bermula. Selalunya saya akan letak benda ni paling lewatlah sejam sebelum kelas bermula. Tapi kalau ada aktiviti yang memerlukan pelajar to submit benda ni, to submit certain deliverable early, then I will put this one a day before. This is more on the planning. This is the first part on the planning. We plan for the weekly. We need to settle this before the semester started, and then after that, our daily ataupun weekly planning should be informed to the student. Second thing, our best practice is on the problem. How that we engage student to the problem that we want them to solve it. So kita kena ada benda yang real. Okay, the problem should represent their student punya real activity. In this case, we want them to analyze the instrumentation analysis for the chemical plant, seperti yang tunjuk dalam yang belah kanan tu. But how that we ask them to do that? So we created a Telegram communication chat, like a reel. So who are they? They are what we call it, intern yang buat LI at this company, and there is a communication between the manager and also the student. Okay, make it a real. Okay. Sebelum ni kita buat yang student tu dapat email daripada manager. Okay, email. On that day, that is about 10 years ago. On that day, email lah yang paling canggih. Okay, now kita ada Telegram. Okay, mungkin in the future, mungkin kita akan ada instruction ni ataupun arahan untuk certain activity tu mungkin boleh dalam bentuk video, mungkin boleh dalam bentuk TikTok. Okay, sesuaikan dengan apa situasi pelajar kita sekarang. Okay, this is very important supaya mereka engage. Okay, get engaged. Kalau ada yang bentuk apa 3D lagi bagus. Then barulah kita akan buat aktiviti dalam kelas. Ini sebelum PKP ya. This activity before PKP. So before PKP bolehlah kita buat discussion. So this is we call it team peer teaching. Okay, one of the activity which we call it team peer teaching. Every team, every group, they have their own notes. Cover the same thing, cover the same content. So dalam dalam kelas saya ada 10 group, 10 team, and they do the summary. Before this, they have an individual notes. After that, they have individual notes that they group together. They come in a class. They need to come up with this team teaching notes. Dalam kelas juga buat. Sebab mereka dah buat benda tu di luar sebelum kelas. Individually, they come up, they learn this one, or they study on this before coming to class. Okay? And they submit their own. They need to submit their own individual teaching notes. Sama ada submit hard copy ataupun just online. Then after that, you need to submit. That's why this is important. Prior knowledge is very important. So in order student can efficiently understand the certain content, student need to learn by themselves first, individually. Okay? And after that, in class, they sit together with their teammates and come up with the same thing as what they have done previously, individually, tapi sebagai a team work, sebagai team. In this case, kita panggil dia team peer teaching notes. Sorry, team teaching notes. So mungkin sometimes some of them, they punya understanding different from other friends. So they need to come together. Semua setuju that the content should be something like this. So bagi masa mungkin dalam sejam, diorang nak argue lah. Okay, so this is what they call it, student-centered learning, because mereka yang initiate benda ni. Okay, pelajar yang akan start the learning process by themselves. Kita just monitor sahaja. Okay, as a lecturer, our tugas just sebagai facilitator ataupun just jadi monitor je. Sebab tu tugas saya banyak ambil gambar saja dalam kelas. Okay, sebab tu saya ada banyak gambar student activity. Lepas tu barulah kita akan ada kelas teaching notes ataupun kelas kelas teaching notes. Tadi dalam grup, lepas tu untuk semua. Jadi mereka ni ada 10 grup, mereka akan buat gallery walk. Pergi kat setiap grup dan grup tu akan present dan mereka akan tanya. So, apa advantage aktiviti ni? Selalunya bila kita buat aktiviti macam ni dan kita kena tengok yang mana dalam kelas kita komposisi pelajar tu dari segi dia punya knowledge berbeza. Dari segi keupayaan, the cognitive capability is different. Okay, ada yang cepat tangkap apa yang kita ajar, ada yang very slow. So kalau kita bagi lecture, advantage pergi kepada those who already at the high phase, okay, high stage, high level. Tapi mereka yang masih lagi di bawah ni akan jadi lambat faham apa yang kita ajar kalau kita guna lecture. Okay, so tapi dalam case ni, dalam team tu kita ada different group, different team member with different cognitive capability. So first thing, student need to do their own teaching notes. They try to understand the content by themselves. Kalau dia faham, it's okay. Kalau dia tak faham, then they need to sit in the team and ask the question, ask their friend supaya dia boleh jadi faham. Student, teammate is responsible to help their teammate yang tak faham tu. So this we call it peer teaching. Okay, you faham, you ajar you punya kawan sampai semua faham. Semua faham content, tak ada masalah. Kalau tak faham juga, semua dalam team member tu tak faham, then benda tu boleh, kefahaman tu boleh berlaku pada next stage, which is the class activity. Boleh tanya grup-grup yang lain. That's all, kena buat gallery walk. Okay. So pergi kepada setiap team, setiap grup. Kalau kita tak faham, tanya. Okay. Kalau faham semua, okay, settle. Tetapi ambil contoh, bila kita pergi buat gallery walk, semua team tadi dah pergi, ada satu content yang tak faham. Yang itu barulah kita sebagai pensyarah akan take over. Okay. So kalau semua faham, then kita goyang kaki je lah. Contohlah, taklah goyang kaki. Tapi nak buat planning ni, banyak kerja nak buat sebelum tu. Tapi this is how we conduct the activity. Okay, start dengan individual and then go to the team. Then bawa pada class. Class understand, proceed to the next content. Tak faham, then kita sebagai pensyarah kena make a closure supaya semua faham. Okay, that is one example. Ini juga another activity, sama juga. Dalam case ni, we give them the real world problem. Memang yang real. Okay. In chemical engineering, in our school, tak ada masalah sebab kita boleh dapat content daripada industri, so tak ada masalah. So every year, every semester, we give them a real case study. Then they need to analyze whatever related, bergantung kepada content ataupun outcome yang kita dah rancang dalam kita punya CI. Right. Sama juga aktiviti yang sama, we give them this what we call it diagram, PNID diagram, we call this piping instrumentation diagram to students. Students do the analysis by themselves, and then they discuss in the team, discuss in the class, and after that, kalau ada masalah, proceed with the next content. Otherwise, we lecturer need to describe on that. Okay, another peer teaching activity in the class. Sebab tu saya galakkan dalam kelas kalau boleh, biar kelas kita dikelilingi dengan whiteboard. Kalau kita nak buat active learning, okay, make sure whiteboard tu keliling kelas, keliling dinding. Dan di SKT kita dah buat satu bilik tu. Memang kita letak semua whiteboard kecuali tingkap je lah. Okay, kita pasang whiteboard. That is our first project. Okay, hopefully lepas ni dah bincang dengan team lead supaya mana-mana bilik tu kalau boleh pasanglah whiteboard banyak-banyak. Because this will help student in do this activity lah. Okay, kadang-kadang tak perlu pun guna, kalau dah ada whiteboard, jadi student tak perlulah pakai kertas mayung. Dia just conteng di setiap whiteboard tu. Jimat sikit lah. Okay, walaupun kertas mayung berapa sen je kan. This is another example activity of the class peer teaching. Okay, so this is part of the gallery work. Ini untuk class control, process control. Yang ini aktiviti untuk plan design, project plan design. Okay, ini dalam pejabat saya tampal benda ni supaya pelajar boleh menconteng, boleh buat discussion. Sama juga untuk pelajar PSM, they come to my room and then inilah tempat dia untuk menconteng, untuk bagi idea. Alright. So, tapi kalau dalam kelas kita dah banyak benda ni, jadi tak perlulah buat dalam bilik. Okay. This is another example how that they come up with their own chemical plant design for their chemical plant. Okay. So this is part of the teamwork activity. So kita kena encourage pelajar kita untuk buat benda ni selalu. Alright, this is example on our first year student activity on introduction to engineering. Yang ini we purposely ask them to come with information from internet. Okay, yang ini more on SDG, more on SDG. First year memang kita more on the SDG. Sama ada plastic, sama ada on river, pollution, whatever. So all information they need to come up. So this is a group activity yang memerlukan pelajar mencari maklumat menggunakan their own handphone, their own technology ataupun gadget. And after that, they come up with the mind map ataupun infographic summary in terms of infographic. Okay, walaupun pelajar tahun 1, kadang-kadang bila mereka come up with this activity, result dia memang wow, kita pun tak expect bila tahun 1 infographic tercantik. Okay, sebab tu saya galakkan mereka supaya bawa marker, crayon, whatever for this kind of activity. Okay, of course sebelum ni benda ni kena dah buat lah awal. Ini in class, they just come to class, alright, terus start buat. But individually they come up with their own mind map ataupun infographic on a problem related to SDG, related to sustainability. Okay, this example, they do the gallery walk. So they come to every single group to discuss, to present first, and then after that do some Q&A. So promote the communication here. Tadi lifelong learning, mereka cari maklumat. Okay. And then juga skill, walaupun tak ada skill dia macam buat infografik ni, tak ada skill, tapi tak apa, kita galakkan juga pelajar untuk buat. Nampak, they come up with this kind of, walaupun masih lagi word banyak, tapi ya, for the first year, okay lah, boleh lah. Okay, we can consider that. Okay. So sometimes mereka pun tak percaya they can able to come up with this kind of infographic. This is Gary work. So Gary work is very important. Hopefully, this is part of the Gary work is also part of the activity, active learning activity. Okay, always encourage your student to do this Gary work, supaya they're able to present their idea, present their understanding to other friends. So this is, we call it part of the peer teaching activity. Okay, another example peer teaching activity. Okay, this is terus komen. Ada benda dia nak komen, just tampal. Kalau tengok belakang tu, ada banyak sticky note. Okay, komen terus. Ada masa kita encourage student to voice up their comment. Ada masa kita minta diorang tulis saja komen mereka. So kena ada variety. You need to have several variety. Alright, untuk active learning, okay, special session ataupun special sharing untuk Dr. Nina sebab dia tanya tadi soalan tadi. Alright, untuk active learning, online active learning. So first, macam tadi, kita kena design dulu ataupun kita plan dulu kita punya kelas. Untuk online active learning, this is how we plan it based on the book and approach. Okay, design this. Yang biru tu adalah lecture, yang hitam tu adalah introduction, merah in between is intermittent discussion. Sama juga, tapi kita jadikan sebagai online closure, online lecture. Kenapa tiba-tiba keluar? Okay, dan kita senaraikan aktiviti itu dan kita inform kepada student. Okay, sama ada dalam WhatsApp, yang ini contoh saya letak dalam WhatsApp ataupun juga letak dalam e-learning. This is very important. How we choose the right apps or the right online tools for our online active learning class. So this depend on you, depend on us. Apa yang kita rancang? Kalau online lecture, in that case we use the online lecture, then kita kena pakai synchronous online meeting, Zoom ke, Webex ke, whatever. Kalau kita tak nak pakai synchronous, kita nak pakai asynchronous, then lecture tu boleh dalam bentuk YouTube, boleh dalam bentuk recorded video. Discussion, online discussion, you can use WhatsApp is part of the discussion, kita boleh buat discussion. Okay, Jamboard pun boleh, Padlet pun boleh. So select, you can choose which one yang you rasa sesuai. Okay, intermittent, sebab kita kena buat discussion, use the right apps or tools for discussion. For lecture, kita dah ada. And closure, usually kita boleh guna Kahoot, kita boleh guna formative, kita boleh guna Quizlet supaya kita boleh recap, ask student to recap. Ataupun kita tanya simple question related to what they have learned on this class. This is example. Okay. Saya tak ada certain activity yang spesifik. Ataupun bukan activity, certain tools yang spesifik. Is depend on us, depend on you. Yang mana you rasa sesuai, yang mana you rasa student boleh pakai benda tu, okay, considering dia punya limitation, internet coverage, whatever, then that's up to you. Okay, ini example yang saya guna untuk the last semasa PKP hari tu. Okay, this is how that, okay, some of the outcome, some of the planning, saya tunjuk kepada pelajar macam ni. Okay, this is our plan, kita buat benda ni, then after that ada banyak menti dan juga ada Jamboard. Yang ni more on the Jamboard. Okay, I will show you the Jamboard now. Example of the Jamboard. For those yang masih lagi tak familiar ataupun tak pernah guna lagi Jamboard. Jamboard is like our activity using kertas mahjong. Macam tadi lah. Yang dalam kelas saja, dalam face to face tu, student boleh letak, boleh upload whatever information there, boleh conteng juga information dan boleh tampal sticky notes untuk komen. Ini example on how we use mathematical modeling dalam process control. So after they write the modeling, the mathematical model, they upload dalam Jamboard, and then other friends in class comment on it. Yang biru tu adalah komen saya. Yang biru saya dah beritahu awal, jangan guna yang biru sebab biru adalah saya punya lecturer. Yang lain tak apa, pakailah color lain. Jadi dia orang boleh able to understand, okay, so yang ini adalah daripada lecturer, yang ini daripada kawan-kawan dia. Okay, so saya encourage all of you to use Jamboard for the discussion. Okay, for the discussion ataupun for the collaborative activity. Ini contoh juga, sorry tak apa clear. Okay. Kamu juga ini untuk plan design. Okay, we do the discussion on the plan design using a Jamboard. Okay, I will show you the live. Okay, the live activity yang saya record untuk Jamboard. Okay. So itu student tengah buat aktiviti, dia gerak-gerakan, dia buat sticky note, dia boleh gerakkan sticky note, dia boleh type, dia boleh copy, contoh. Okay. So dalam kelas ni dah ada lebih 25 student dah masuk. Okay. Usually sebelum kelas start saya dah create Jamboard ni, saya dah letak apa requirement dia and berapa masa, then student into the discussion. Okay. Dan saya akan check setiap saya akan boleh pergi kepada grup yang lain. Ini contohnya ini untuk tim 8. Kalau ada benda yang masih lagi kuat familiar, I will ask the question. Kita boleh tengok aktiviti. Alright, this has happened. Ada dalam, nampak pergerakan berlaku. Maksudnya sekarang ni student tengah aktif. Okay. Dan student boleh pergi kepada jam yang lain untuk komen. Okay. Kecuali satu color saja, itu daripada saya. Nampak berlaku, nampak pergerakan tu. Gambar-gambar tu menunjukkan aktiviti student tengah melawat ataupun pergi kepada jam-jam yang lain. Okay. So, ini dah di penghujung, towards the end. So, what is important here for me, and also supported by this professor, to improve education, focus on the pedagogy, not technology. Tapi kalau teknologi itu membantu, yes, sometimes teknologi itu kadang-kadang menjadikan kita punya aktiviti, menjadikan pemahaman itu menjadi lebih tak berapa elok. So, but online, most important is pedagogy. To understand what should be the activity, and after that, technology comes in to help you. Not basically kita fokus pada teknologi dulu. Ini untuk online. Untuk online learning, don't focus on the technology first. You focus on your pedagogy. You focus on the theory. You focus on your teaching practice, your assessment first. And after that, baru you tengok pada what technology available for you to support of this teaching practice, teaching, learning, theory, whatever, activity on assessment. Okay? Sebab ada banyak pun, teknologi dah ada pun. Kalau tengok dalam ni pedagogy wheel ni, dah ada banyak. The only thing yang kita kena pilih adalah find or select the right apps suitable with our outcome, suitable with our learning and teaching activity. Okay? Pedagogy should determine our apps, our technology, not technology yang determine kita punya activity. Okay? Kalau kita nak implement, for example, active learning, so this active learning or this cooperative learning yang akan menentukan apa tools yang kita pakai, okay, for online learning. Bukannya kita pilih awal-awal, kita pilih Zoom. Tapi Zoom untuk apa? Kenapa kita pakai Zoom? So, pedagogy ataupun our activity planning basically yang determine our selection of the apps. Ini saja benda ni saya tunjuk what is basically our innovation in our teaching and learning in our school. This is the TPAC. Another TPAC. Ini tak ada saja-saja ni. Last year, our team managed to get this Nali Award for our yang inilah asalnya yang ini framework yang ni. This is kita dapat Nali Award untuk that framework. Yang ini kita dapat untuk goal untuk Nelly punya exhibitions. Based on this, macam mana kita constructively align our punya integrated course on the integrated assessment. Okay. Last words sebelum saya end up our sharing ni, kita kena berubah. What happened to Nokia? Nokia tak nak berubah langsung. So what happened to them? Sebelum handphone Samsung, sebelum handphone Oppo semua ni wujud, Nokia is the first brand yang kita semua kenal. But mereka tak nak berubah kepada new technology which is touchpad, touch screen. Nokia tak nak berubah. Then what happened now? Nokia pun dah tak wujud. Okay, so jangan takut berubah. Content versus knowledge also very important. Okay, apa yang kita nak pentingkan, content ke ataupun knowledge yang student kita dapat? Okay, you can think on this. Sama juga, if our objective is to make sure student understand number 3, then kita akan boleh banyak approach. 1 plus 1 is also 3. 4 minus 1 is also 3. So the approach, the solution can be different as long as objective can be achieved. So jangan kita kecewa kalau cara kita nak dapatkan solution berbeza dengan kawan kita yang lain. Okay? Dan jangan juga kita condemn cara kita nak dapatkan solution tak sama dengan kawan kita. As long as we're able to achieve the objective. 3 can be anything. To get the 3 solution of 3, you can achieve from different kind of ways. Okay, yang penting you achieve the objective. That's all. Okay, always encourage our student to do this. Biar diorang tanya, biar the team communicate. And yang saya paling suka adalah saya biarkan student salah, buat benda yang salah dulu. Okay, tapi janganlah sampai mereka tu salah tu sampai daripada first semester, early semester until mid semester. So siapa pula tu nanti? Okay, biar mereka rasa salah tu and they learn from that. Okay, selalunya dalam aktiviti kelas ni saya takkan beritahu jawapan. Apa dia jawapan ni? Biasanya kalau kita bagi lecture kita terus bagi jawapan kan. But in this case, in our class, no. Okay, you find by yourself, discuss with your friend first. Lepas tu barulah hopefully that they will learn from their mistake. And hopefully, the most important, they have fun in the learning. Okay, some of you tak dari tadi kan, dalam nanti ada fun. So how that to make their fun? They work together, they communicate together, they teach different together. Okay, orang pelajar takkan happy, takkan having a fun kalau kita seorang saja yang bercakap dalam kelas. Okay, the more you teach, the better you will learn. Okay, so peer teaching. This is more on the peer teaching. Encourage your student to teach different. Okay, ini pun kita dah sentuh tadi. That's all. That's my sharing on this. Rasanya ada terlebih masa. Minta maaf lah kalau ada terlebih masa. Alright, so saya serahkan semula kepada moderator Dr. Mahani. If you have a question that you can ask now. I am able try my best to answer the question. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Kamaruddin again. I am going to take another question from again Professor Dr. Zada Zainal. There must be 2 parts to the continuum. One is non-active and the other is active learning. So lectures should be at the non-active part. What is your comment on this, Dr. Kamaruddin?
Okay, thank you Dr. Zada for this comment. Basically, this continuum is already developed by, I think, saya tak ingat siapa yang develop. Sorry lah, saya pernah lupa. Okay, that is not from me, this from this professor, they come up with this. Professor Smith, Professor Smith. Okay, they already identify that, okay. Active learning, kalau lecture pun still active. Walaupun instructor centered tu, ataupun lecture centered, teacher centered, still active. When you have certain activity. Walaupun satu pun dah kira aktif. Okay, lecture, okay, non-active lecture, 100% student tak buat apa-apa. Dengar, tulis, itu je. What happens at the back? Mereka akan mungkin tidur atau whatever. Okay, but if you have a certain activity, at least one activity, kita dah consider sebagai aktif. But masih lagi bawah student lecture centered. Sebab those activity, as what I mentioned in your another question, adalah initiated by lecturer. Daripada kita yang mulakan, not student. If students start or decided their own learning process, itu baru kita panggil student centered. Okay, hopefully that. Tapi yang tu memang saya tak boleh buat sebab itu daripada Prof Smith. Okay, dah ada research yang buat benda tu. Okay, hopefully menjawab soalan lah. Dr. Mahani, tak ada suara. Suara tak dengar, Dr. Mahani. Okay.
Dr. Nina, okay. There's one from Dr. Nurul, from Dr. Nurul Azlan. Question: there are a lot of active learning strategies seem to be designed for big classrooms. How do we do with classes which are really small, say between 2 to 5 people? Most lessons in these cases are already more like conversations between the lecturer and the students. But I wonder if there are available specific strategies to tackle small classroom. Dr. Kamaruddin.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nurul. So, selalunya kita risau. We always worry about a big class, not a small class. Alright, that's why there is also a certain approach for a big class about 200, 300. So small class kita tak ada masalah. Okay, because the activity always, we guarantee activity. When you have activity, that's already active. Okay, so 4 to 5 people macam yang saya tunjuk tadi, saya buat dalam kelas, dalam bilik saya saja. Saya letak sticky note yang besar, ataupun kita panggil mahjong, sticky mahjong paper. Okay, so ask them to give the opinion, suruh dorang mereka, ask the student to write their mind, dia buat mind map or whatever, simultaneously ataupun directly di situ. Okay, so I think there should be, I cannot say what should be the idea, how to deal it, because the small class is very efficient for you to do the active learning. Okay, you can do whatever is it. Okay, so you can just easy for you to talk to each other, to face to face, or ask question for all of them, rather than a big class. That's why a big class is our concern, major concern, not a small class. Okay, so saya tak ada specific strategy to tackle for this small classroom. Okay, because easy for you. If you ask them, that's already active, and they communicate, they reply, it's already active. Imagine if you want to ask one by one in a 200, 300 class, that will be difficult. That is our major concern. Okay, the small one tak ada masalah, continue saja. Okay, tak ada specific strategy.
You mentioned TikTok. So yes, have you tried using TikTok in your class or in your classes for that matter, Dr. Kamal?
Right, soalan ni macam nak menjerat saja ni. I have account. Terus terang saya ada account, tapi saya tak pernah buat lagi lah. Okay, dan saya tak try pada YouTube. YouTube memang saya banyak lah. So memang saya tak pernah try untuk kelas saya. Okay, Dr. Faizal, saya tak try lagi. Tapi saya ada account. But you should try, because this is the phenomena. This is the phenomena. You should try. Tak semestinya nak tergelek-gelek apa semua. Okay, you just beritahu. Okay, ada idea. Saya pernah buat reflection. Okay, saya bagi contoh. Saya pernah minta pelajar saya buat reflection untuk problem yang dia dah solve menggunakan YouTube, seumpam apa nama yang itu, yang challenge tu. Mereka buat all those video. Okay, mereka cerita apa dia punya experience semasa nak selesaikan problem tu, tapi dalam bentuk video. Itu saya pernah minta student buat. Kalau guna TikTok lagi mudah benda tu. Okay, tapi saya tak pernah buat lah, itu je, terus terang saya tak pernah buat. Okay,
maybe Dr. Faizah can try and share with us, perhaps.
Yeah, hopefully. Next sharing session minta Dr. Faizah show dia punya TikTok.
Okay, while waiting for the next question we have, I just want to, it's more of a feedback of your talk, Dr. Kamaruddin. I am
Yeah.
happy that you shared with us your detailed weekly lesson plan, especially I think with a subject that is shared by many lecturers. So, so perhaps a detailed weekly lesson plan like you shared earlier would ensure that everybody is doing the same thing. And I think also the assessment part we are doing almost the same thing and towards achieving our CLOs. That's a very good sharing that you give there. Apart from the others, of course.
Yeah. Especially
So
kalau
we have.
kita ada, if you involve several lecturers, kadang-kadang lecturer ni dia idea dia macam-macam kan. So kita kena standardize benda tu. Okay.
In language academy we have like more senior lecturers about to retire like me, and we have young ones, and we can collaborate and perhaps come out with a weekly schedule that is more appropriate to the millennials like you mentioned earlier. So I think that it is a very good sharing on that part, apart from the other, of course.
Okay. Hopefully you all practice on that.
Yes, and I'm sure also if you have any questions, if you're not asked now, perhaps you can always contact Dr. Kamaruddin through his email for UTM staff. And also, yes, thank you. And I'm sure he is more than willing to share with you whatever answers or whatever approaches that he has been practicing.
Inshallah.
So yes, so
No
thank you
problem on
again. Thank you very much again for accepting our invitation. We will invite you in the future, but before that, definitely we will take you for coffee first, and then we will definitely be
Kena
inviting
kopi-kopi
you.
dulu. Kena kopi-kopi dulu.
So thank you very much again, Dr.
Thank
Kamaruddin.
you.
It's very, very fortunate
Thank
for
you
us
for
to have
giving me
you
this
here.
opportunity to share my
No
small
worries.
practice, my small knowledge. Hopefully benda ni manfaat pada semua.
Inshallah. Thank you very much. So I would like to close the session by thanking, of course, Dr. Kamaruddin and all of you who are joining us on Facebook. We will see you in our next session, more perhaps on active learning. With that, thank you very much, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi